Alright, what's up, y'all? So, I'm gonna try to do this onion video right quick, not keep y'all too long. So, um, a lot of people say they struggle with growing onions, and I get that because I struggled with growing onions for years. I finally got it about 2 years ago, or a year ago. Let me see. Is it? I think it was 2 years ago. I think it may have been a year ago, but either way it goes, after failing for all these times growing onions, I finally got it right. So, let me start off by saying this: if currently right now you are struggling with onions, I'm gonna tell you, here's my best advice, because sometimes people, they want to compartmentalize too much, and you really should do a lot of the same stuff across the board in your life, period. So if you're not having any success with onions, my first advice is get you some seeds for bunching onions. And see, Felix, you're not an onion. I don't care what you say, you're not an onion. Anyway, get you some seeds for bunching onions. It doesn't matter what kind. Get you some Egyptian walking onions, and or, because you don't have to get all of these, you can get either one, or you can get a little bit all, or some multiplier onions. Multiplier onions are also called potato onions. They call them potato onions because you know how you plant one potato, you get a whole lot of potatoes. Well, that's how the onions are. You plant one onion, you get a whole lot of onions. Okay? So, why am I telling you to invest in one, if not all three of those? Because those are the easiest onions to grow, bar none. Period. Requires no skill at all. Period. Got it? So, with the bunching onions, any onion seeds, period, make sure you do not sow your onion seeds on just like on top of the soil. Onion seeds actually need darkness in order to germinate. If they're not in the dark, meaning under the soil, they will not germinate. Now, let me say this: don't plant them a mile deep, y'all. At the most, you want to plant them a quarter inch deep. That's only about that much. You want to plant them a quarter inch deep, no deeper. If you plant them too deep, you run the risk of they may not be able to push up through the soil. They should be able to, but plant them a quarter inch to an eighth of an inch deep, you'll be fine. But they do need to be in the dark. Second of all, your onion seeds, does not matter what kind of onion seeds, doesn't matter if it's bunching onions, bulbing onions, whatever. Your onion seeds, what you want to do is you want to make sure that they stay moist until they germinate. They must stay moist. If you allow those seeds, like you water them in, and then you let the soil get dry, and then you water them, no. Those seeds need constant moisture in order to germinate. Once you start seeing a little green, it'll look like grass almost. Once you start seeing a little green, little coming up, still keep it moist, but it's not as imperative. Like if the soil dries out a little bit, it's okay. Your onions have already come up, but you don't want to let the soil get so dry that you kill your onions. So like I said, keep that moist. Now, me personally, what I usually do is, when it comes to onions, I put them in a little small separate container. You can direct sow onions. You can. I've done it before. However, I find that when I put them in a little container, it's on my mind. It's like, okay, these are my onions. I have to make sure these stay moist until they germinate. I have to, you see what I'm saying? Versus sometimes, like if I was the way I garden, if I was to just throw them out in my garden, I may lose track of where they are, and I may they may not get adequate water, or anything could happen. They could get shaded out. I'm just not really paying attention that well when it's out in my regular beds. So I put them in a little small container to themselves. Y'all probably seen my foil pans. I mean, y'all be innovative. You don't always have to spend an arm and a leg. You can go to Dollar Tree and get your 4 pan. They ain't $1 no more. The prices done went up. But anyway, I'm so disturbed by Dollar Tree and that. But anyway, you can get you. I used to get 2 or 3 4 pans in a little pack for $1. Poke you some holes in it right quick. It's just foil. You don't need much to poke a hole. You can poke a hole with anything, a butter knife, anything. You know how foil pans are. Once you pierce them, they pierced. Pierce you a couple of holes in them, throw you some dirt in them. To me, they make great seed starter trays. without you having to spend the money on a seed starter tray. Now, if you fancy and you just have to get you a seed starter tray, go right ahead. But I'm hood, and look. Let me tell you something. In order to keep money, you can't be always out here spending money. Just a thought, But anyway, that's usually what I start my onions in. You can keep them in there a nice amount of time. Leeks too. The same thing. All of this, what I'm telling you, it goes for leeks. I'm starting leeks from seed as well because they're allium as well. So once your onions come up and they have, I would say, maybe two little, how they get the little leaves on them. They don't look like leaves. They look like little blades of grass. Once they get probably about 2 blades of grass, maybe 3, go ahead and you can transplant them wherever you want to transplant them, or if that's where you're going to grow them, just leave them there. Now, here's what you need to know. When it comes to bunching onions and all that kind of stuff, they're not going to get a huge bulb anyway. They're not supposed to. They're bunching onions. You can pretty much just feed those with a nitrogen heavy fertilizer. I recommend that you feed them with a balanced fertilizer. But if you was to feed them with just fish emulsion, it'll work. But that's not really what I recommend per se. A balanced fertilizer to me is best, but for bunching onions, it really doesn't matter. You can feed them with nitrogen heavy fertilizers because, like I said, the main thing you're going to get is the green growth. That's what nitrogen does. Okay? When it comes to your potato onions, just keeping it 100, I've never fed mine. They make onions every single time. If I feed them, they probably would get bigger. So I would say feed those, since they have a bulb, make sure you're feeding those a balanced fertilizer. And when I say balanced, the NPK, each one of those 3 numbers should be as even as you possibly can get it. Okay? So, and potato onions, like I said, they do get a bulb. So those are bulbing onions, but those are the easiest bulbing onions in my opinion to grow. So let's get into the real bulbing onions, like your noondays and your Vidalias and your red creoles and all those nice big bulbing onions. What's the other ones? Candy. People grow candy a lot. Step 1, find out what type of days you have. Do you have long day? Do you have short day? Do you have intermediate days? And that goes based on your location, where you live. In the south, we have short day. In the north, they have long day. Kind of through the middle of the country, and that's why I say you need to kind of look and see where you are, where you fall. If you go to Dixondale Farms, they specialize in onions. They have a map that will show you where you fall as far as long day, short day, intermediate. That's how you want to pick your onions. Do not, if you were in the south, pick a long day onion. I'm telling you right now, you will not have success, period. It won't work. Our days, we don't have enough sunlight to make that long day onion bulb up and get a nice pretty bulb on it. We just don't have it. Now, I would love for somebody from the north to tell me, have you grown short day onions and were you able to get a successful harvest? My thinking is, since your days are long and those are short day onions, I'm thinking you ought to get nice onions. That's what I'm thinking, but I don't know. I don't live there. You know what I'm saying? All I know is long day onions ain't gonna work down here. It ain't gonna work. So that's step number 1. Once you find out what day you fall into, find out which onions fall into that. Candy onions are short day. Vidalia onions are short day. Noonday is short day. I think them Texas super sweets is short day. Red Creoles are short day. A lot of times you can tell from the name what they are. If it's some Texas, it's in the south, short day. If it's some Creole, that's some Louisiana, short day. You feel what I'm saying? Vidalia, everybody know that's in Georgia. In case you didn't know, a Vidalia and a Vidalia is really a grano something, but it's the same thing as I think a noonday or a Texas super sweet or something. It's the same onion, but they just call them Vidalias because they grow them. They're famous for growing them in Vidalia, Georgia. But you don't have to grow Vidalias in Vidalia to get Vidalia onions. I grew Vidalia, so because they happen to be one of my favorite onions as far as for versatility. You can make just about anything out of them. They don't have that pungency to them, that bite to them. But sometimes you want a white onion with a bite to it, depending on what you're making. Like when I make pico de gallo, I kind of want that little bit more of a bite to it. But if I'm making an onion ring, or I want a milder onion flavor, or if I'm eating that onion raw, sometimes I want a little bit sweeter, milder flavor. But anyhow, so once you find out which onions you want to grow, you found out what day you are, you figured out which onions is, falls into the category that your area is in. And you find out what onions you want to grow. Procure you some seeds or some sets. Do not go by the store and be like, oh, they're selling these sets, they must be the onions that are for my area. No, that's not necessarily the case. I have often bought long day onions here in the South. Let me tell you something. Bonnie or whoever's growing it, they don't care. They want your money. And if you're crazy enough to buy it and not pay attention and see what it is, they will sell you that crap. And you will wonder, why can't I get onions? Why my onions? See, you be thinking it's you. But I think they want people to get out the growing game. But anyway, so, don't always think that just because that onion is in the store, that is, the onion that you need to be growing, because it may or may not be. So just double check. If you're getting sets, double check and make sure. Look on there and see what it is, or look at your seed, see what it is, make sure. And sometimes on the seed pack it tells you if it's long or short day or something like that. So just be reading, be paying attention. Always be paying attention, be reading. Okay, so once you've procured your onions, now let me say this. Right now, in the summer, really, actually, in my opinion, you're kind of late. I'm kind of late with this video too. If you have seeds, plant them now. Plant them now in the summer. People make the mistake of thinking that you can take an onion seed for a bulbing onion, an onion that's supposed to get a nice, good size, and you can plant that seed in the spring, and by the end of the season, you're going to have big onions. Lies. That's not how onions work. I don't care what that seed pack tell you, harvest in how many days, I don't care. Let me ask you a question. If you could go from seed to onion, you plant in the spring, harvest in the fall. If you could do that, why are they selling sets in the store? Because you can't do that. That's why. If it was spring, and let's just make this, for next spring, because I know spring is dead and gone. If it was spring, buy you some sets. If you want onions in the summer or that fall, buy sets. In the spring, sets. I'm going to say that again. In the spring, buy sets. Do not buy seeds, because you're going to be looking crazy. Because when it gets to the end of the year, you're going to be like, why is the stuff only this big? What it took for me to learn was for me to buy some seeds and plant them in the spring, and at the end of the fall, I had sets. I said, these onions, what is that? Because my stupid tail thought that they were supposed to no. You will have sets. Once you have those sets, now, here in the South, we get mild winters. So when I grow like that, I just leave them. I don't pull them up out of wherever they at. They're going to stay. By the time they get to set size, I usually have planted them wherever I want them to grow for the duration of their lives. I leave them all winter. Winter usually will not kill onions. You may see the tops die back. Usually. Now, let me tell you something. If you live in the north, you need to get in the comment section and help these other people that's in the north. You grow onions. Or if you tried onions and what you've experienced. Because, see, sometimes we scared to get together and have a conference call and conference with each other and say, well, I did this and this happened and I did. You see what I'm saying? You all may need to have a conference call. And if you need to do that in the comment section, go right ahead. Because I don't know when you get a vast amount of snow. I don't know what happens. Now, I left onions out here when we got that snow, all them 4-5 days, not this past winter, the winter before that. It didn't kill my onions. My onions come up in the spring. They came up. Now, killed, the tops and stuff died back. But they came. Usually, my tops don't even die back, y'all. That's how my olive winters are here. My tops usually don't even die back. So, like I said, if it's springtime and you're trying to have onions at the end of the summer, you need to buy what? Class. Did we say sets? I hope that's what we said, because if we didn't say sets, you have the wrong answer. Okay, now, let's say it's summertime. Like, for instance, you see everybody's kind of harvesting their garlic and onions, because I've showed mine, Bull showed his, and several other people showed. Okay, right now, if you have seeds, you want to plant them right now. Plant them right now. Plant your seeds. I'm going to tell you what that's going to give you time enough to do. Your seeds, if you fertilize them properly, and I'm going to talk about fertilizing in a minute. If you fertilize them properly, your seeds, by the end of the summer, going into the fall, and like I said, I don't pull mine in the south. I leave them. We're going to say in the south again, because we have mild winters and we don't get no snow. We don't do what? You leave those onions in the what? Ground. Don't even fool with it. Just leave it. Leave it. Put it somewhere where you can leave it. Now, if you got your stuff in a pot, be careful. Don't let the roots freeze. That's what kills people's plants. People think, oh, this is so delicate. No, you let the roots freeze. It's not that it's delicate. The ground, the earth is way more insulated than a pot. If you're going to keep it in a pot, protect your pot. Whether you need to put hay, straw, pine straw, whatever you need to put around it. Put it in a greenhouse, whatever you need to do. You feel me? At this point in the gardening game, is certain stuff you know what I'm saying, you should be knowing, and you should be retaining, you should be thinking at all times. Your brain should be moving. If your brain is not moving, order you another one from Amazon. I'm sure they sell them by now. So if you plant your seeds now, by the time spring come around, you will have sets. Now, you can even plant them in a seed tray if you want. And if you got a greenhouse or whatever, just take care of them through the winter. You're going to have to water them every now and again, you know, but you're going to have sets come spring. What I said we do in the spring with our sets. What do? We plant them in the spring. And by the end of the fall, you're going to have onions. You see what I'm saying? But let me say this here. To make this be sustainable, and this is up to you whether you want to be sustainable or not, or do you want to keep just purchasing seeds or what have you. If you want to be sustainable, once you get a nice big bulbing onion, leave it. Leave it. Leave you about 2 or 3 of them, because they're going to make a lot of seeds. Leave you 2 or 3. Or you can just leave 1 if you want. Let it go to seed. Let it stay the whole winter. When it come back spring, that sucker should go to seed for you. You see what I'm saying? So by that point, that onion will have been, you planted that onion 1 year, you let it go the whole year. It made a nice sized onion, you left it. You let it go to another, let spring come back around again. When spring came back around again, it said, okay, I'm going to biennial. Let me make seeds now. You see what I'm saying? So that way you'll have you some seeds. Now, if you're not worried about that, pull all your onions, cook all your onions, and you just have to start over, whether you're going to buy sets or you're going to have seeds or whatever you're going to do. I hope that made sense. I'm going to review one more time. If you got seeds, you want to plant them now. Right after you harvest your onions, plant your seeds. If you had onions in the ground. If you didn't have onions in the ground, here it is. I say plant them in June. I feel like I'm late. I harvest my onions around Juneteenth. That's when I harvest my onions. You don't, look at your onions, see when the tops flop over, it's time to pull them. If your tops flop over and you want to keep that for seed, leave 2 or 3 of them. They'll come back up in the next spring, and they'll give you seeds. But pull your onions. When you pull your onions, throw your seeds down, wherever you're going to put them. Your seeds will grow all the way until the next spring. By the time next spring comes, they should be the size of sets. When they are the size of sets, at that point, if they are not in a place that they're going to grow their whole lives, you want to plant them wherever they're going to grow their whole lives, the rest of their lives. You want to take care of them, all that, through the summer when it's time to harvest them. Like I said, I harvest mine around Juneteenth. You want to harvest your stuff. You see what I'm saying? So onions are not hard. You just have to understand that you can't plant a seed in the spring and come out with the onion at the end of the fall. And at the beginning of the fall or end of the summer. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so now let's talk about fertilizer, and then we're going to be out of here. When you're fertilizing your onions, when you first drop your seeds, you want a fertilizer that's heavy nitrogen. Let me explain to you why. Yes, ultimately we want the roots of the onion. But you cannot get good roots without what? Good foliage. You must get that green part of that onion to be nice and vibrant so that it can photosynthesize and make that bulb. It takes a lot of photosynthesis to make these roots. It's just like when I talked to y'all about the sweet potatoes. Why I didn't get no sweet potatoes? If your vines are not growing completely and totally out of control to where you cannot control them, you may not get a good harvest. Just like, y'all watch what I'm telling y'all. If y'all looked at Aisha stuff, them vines growing all out their greenhouse, Aisha don't. I mean, you can harvest your leaves, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The more they grow out of there, the more you probably will have a harvest. Probably. The only way I ever get good harvest is my vines have to be absolutely out of control, just growing crazy. Like you have to have a ton of foliage to make all of that tuber under the ground. It's the same thing with these bulbs. In order to make these bulbs, it has to have good photosynthesis. So when you first start feeding them, you want to feed them. You can either do one or two things. You can feed them a balanced fertilizer. You can feed them a heavy nitrogen fertilizer. But don't worry about feeding them a fertilizer that's like more for bulbs and things like, to create the root growth just yet. You want to get the greenery nice and lush. Once that greenery get nice and lush, I hit my stuff with bone meal, and basically I leave the end alone for one feeding. Like for instance, when they set size and I'm getting ready to plant them in the garden, that's usually when I do it. It doesn't matter when you do it, as long as you start doing it before the summer days, when days start getting longer, when the sun start being out longer. You want to do it before then. You want to give it a good dose of fertilizer so that it can start making that bulb. So you can cut back on the nitrogen right then and let it get a nice big bulb. Also, you could just use a balanced fertilizer. Me personally, if you just use a balanced fertilizer the whole time they're growing, you usually get decent results. But some of these people, if you wonder how they get these huge ass onions, this is what they're doing. When they go to plant them in the garden, they're putting a whole lot of potassium and NPK. Get this together, phosphorus. They're putting a heavy dose of phosphorus and potassium into the soil to make sure that it gets that nice big bulb on them. Now, as you go on, nitrogen is important, but it's not as important. You feel me? Because once you get to that, where you want to get it to that bulbing stage, you're more worried about the bulb than you are anything else. But I usually just hit mine pretty hard with the potassium and phosphorus. Like you can buy fertilizers that are 0 nitrogen and like 20 potassium, 0 phosphorus. You see what I'm saying? You can get fertilizers like that, and I usually use something like that. I dress it, either side dress it or put it in the hole when I'm planting the potatoes. You can also get the kind that are dissolved in water. It's water soluble. So if you want to do it, you want to plant them and then just spray them with it, whatever. I do that right before the days start getting long. Like right before the time changes. Y'all know when the time changes and it be midnight and the sun's still out. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So right then, do that. After that, I go back to a balanced fertilizer. And I make sure I keep them fed. I'm going to be honest, if you're not feeding your onions, they're not heavy feeders, but they need food. They need, because they got that big top and then you're trying to make a big bulb, they need food. So that's pretty much it. If it's anything that I left out or that's vague or that you didn't understand or you got any questions about, please put that in the comment section. Like I said, Northern Growers, if you have anything you want to add to it or anything like that, feel free to leave it in the comment section. People read the comment section. So, you can add your input there. It is more than welcome. So, till next time, see you guys later.